Hello my fragrance lovers and my good smelling companions, Dominic here for Fragrance Reviews. Thanks for stopping by for this short video. Today I'm going to be talking about Creed Aventus Matured. This is about my experience with Creed when it seems to have been matured, in my opinion, and my whole opinion on a matured fragrance, but specifically in regard to Creed Aventus. That's what this is going to be about. Here is my box. This was purchased in January, mid-January of this year. It is now pretty much the end of October, so that's about 9 months, pretty much. And the cologne, from my experience, the quality is better. So let's talk a bit about this, because there was a conversation in the comments on the video I did when I reviewed the product the first time, this is not a review, this is just going to be a bit of a follow-up video on that about the maturing of Creed Aventus. Is it worth doing? Does it make much of a difference? What's my experience, my opinion, etc. I'm going to get out the bottle, and after I've gone on a little bit about maturing, I'm going to treat you to a little spray on myself as well, and give you my impressions of the matured fragrance. Now, I did actually use this quite recently. It was for a jazz festival. I gave somebody I knew the replica jazz club to use for the evening, and I used some Creed Aventus. Let's get this out of the box anyway, and what I like to do is I always like to actually take the Creed Aventus out of the box, so that I have to work to get at the fragrance, because it is it's such a good fragrance. Not something that should be just seen on the shelf and the temptation is to just spray a bit on. I've got to actually get at it, so I've got to go through the 2 layers, and then I've got to open up the other thing to get the bottle out. And I also like the whole experience, and remembering how well this was done, and all the thought that went into this fragrance. This is a luxury fragrance, and I'm going to not be forgetful of that. So when I use some Creed, I actually go through the whole process of opening it up nice and carefully, and not being too rushed about it, and savouring the moment, because if you buy a pricey product, then why not treat it with a bit of royalty as it deserves. That's the way I see it anyway, guys. Okay, so we've got the bottle out of the box. Now, we're going to discuss a little bit about this. Some people say a lot of people, they believe if you mature a fragrance, but I don't know whether it applies to all fragrances, maybe it does. If you let the oxygen get to it, and I'm not too sure whether once you've sprayed it, the oxygen can kind of get in a bit easier and it kind of gets to it, or maybe if you loosen the top a bit and let some air in. Anyway, they do say that if you simply leave a fragrance a couple of months, let's just restrict this to Creed Aventus. If you leave Creed a couple of months, now I've certainly left it a good while, and it's not quite halfway. But if you leave it anyway, some people have just sprayed it a few times, and they'll still have most of it there, and then they leave it, and then they'll come back to it. The punch is better. There's a bit more oomph to the fragrance. It is stronger. It is improved, improved with age. That's what they call maturing a fragrance. Now, when I had this, I was wondering, is this nonsense? I mean, wouldn't it go stale if you leave something? I mean, if you leave a glass of whiskey out, for example, and then you come back in 2 days, it's even more kind of, but it's kind of a nasty strength. But with perfumes, look, if it's stronger, isn't that better? Anyway, we can't really compare perfumes to alcohol anyway, but leaving stuff out, usually I thought, well, it goes bad, it doesn't get better. But with perfumes, it's, I have to say, I've changed my views on that. I think that, I did look it up when the discussion started on my channel on the previous video, and it did seem to make sense that if you leave a fragrance, it will get better. And then, of course, my inexperience kicked in, and okay, yes, there's the notes are simply accentuated a bit more. How much more? I'm not too comfortable with saying how much more, guys, but I can tell you from my experience that it really does improve the quality. Well, the strength is the word. It gets a bit stronger. And for some people that's a very significant, that's just enough, because they have a very good sense of, well, a very good nose, a very good sense of how strong, how punchy, how much I need to put on. And I would say if you've had a product of Creed for a couple of months sitting there, they say in a cool and a dark place. I mean, this has been in a cool and a dark place. They probably know what they're talking about, and it gets better, and therefore you probably need less on you. And so far, I'm in agreement with that. And as for other fragrances, I don't have enough experimental knowledge, but it probably follows logically the same kind of thing, that fragrances can do that if you leave them for a while. Now, I'm going to treat you to this little spray. I'm going to give you some of my impressions, because this morning I haven't got other colognes on. No, I don't. Yes, let's do this. We're going to get these aromas flying. All right, because the whole point of this is to show that it does mature and it does improve. Is it worth it? Is the next question. Okay. A beautiful sprayer on Creed Aventus. You just can't beat it. I mean, it's everything about it. Oh my god, I'm already smelling that. Oh my goodness. Immediately it gets, oh, it's invading. Wow. I mean, that's an absolute blast. I mean, that's an explosion, guys. I mean, that's whoa. Oh, goodness gracious. Look, it would be crazy, wouldn't it, if you were just kind of going into like an office and you're just like psh, 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 with a matured fragrance. You enter the door and it's like, hello, somebody is making a statement. My gosh, beautiful, powerful, absolutely almost invasive. It's kicking the door down. It's not even joking. By gosh, well. Now, it is a bit hard to compare, but it is stronger. I'm just sold on this whole idea, and I mean, I can smell it now. It's just strong. It's just stronger. I'm sure of it. It's stronger than it was the first month that I bought it, even a month and a half, maybe a month or two. It is better than it was. The performance is amazing. That extra oof, that extra punch, that whole sort of grenade effect as soon as you spray it. It's incredible. So basically, I agree. That's my opinion, that maturing a fragrance is a real thing, especially with this one. Well, this is the one I have direct experience of, and that if you leave this a few months, it will get better. Now, should you bother with that? I mean, because it's a bit hard if you go to the trouble of buying something as wonderful and amazing as a bottle of Creed Aventus, that you then have to just put it on the shelf after like 1 or 2 sprays and wait for months on end. Well, it depends whether you're somebody who invests in Creed products, which I don't do. It's a bit above my price range, as a lot of people would say, you know. And if you're that kind of person that sort of buys it anyway, you can afford it, it's then you know, you may or may not bother with doing that. Or if you're just very much a fan of Creed, then you probably would want to do that. If you're not like myself, then, well, what I've simply done is I've just gone slow on using it. I just haven't. Sometimes I was a bit thoughtless. I put kind of lots on, or I put it on when I didn't really need it. But if I had been even more careful, it would probably, my level of fragrance would probably be a little higher up the bottle. So it depends how much you use it. It depends what you want to get out of it. It depends how much of a fan you are of Creed. I think the average person buying this, they wouldn't sort of be inclined to leave it. They would just start using it. But there are people who think that it'll be more economical if they leave it, and then they get a better quality fragrance out of it by maturing it for a couple of months. You know, it doesn't have to be like years, 2 years or anything. It just has to be like 5 months, 4 months even, probably. And you'll get a wonderful, matured, increased, more powerful, more advanced fragrance out of the bottle. Whereas if you just started spraying on it and then reducing it to pretty much nothing before it had a chance to mature, then you would miss out on that extra kind of kick. And I guess one advantage of letting it mature is that it's you need less of it. So in the end, you end up getting a bit more of your money's worth out of the bottle, because it's a big question for Creed, because it is expensive. You see, that's the thing. Is like, is it worth letting an ordinary fragrance mature if it wasn't that expensive? Maybe. It depends how much you are into that particular fragrance. But anyone who buys Creed is really into it. They didn't pay that money for nothing. They really wanted to have Creed, and therefore they made the sacrifice, and they spent the money on it, and they got it. But if you're going to do that, and if it's something you don't usually buy, then maybe do just have one or two occasional sprays and let it mature. And like I've almost done, I've used a bit more than I should really have if I've been wanting it to mature. Then leave it a few months. Use other perfumes in the meantime, and then come back to your Creed, and you'll get just that extra benefit from it, which can really count when it comes to this fragrance. Okay, I'm afraid that was a bit of a ramble. I'm sure you're sick and tired of Creed videos at this stage. This is probably the third one. This is not a review of the product. This is about maturing it, and my experiences with a matured Creed. And I can't stop going down and getting that beautiful waft off it. And I'm certain, from my experience, that maturing is something that is real and can well be worthwhile doing for this type of a fragrance. Okay, guys. Sorry if that was a bit rambly. I may see you sometime in another video. In the meantime, guys, march forward, smelling good. Thanks for watching.
You